whamamalo atu i talamalo ponua. Lo tu pe a moe ako. Patapatu heni ki he tui o tonga. Pe a pehe ki he whare o ha moe ofu. Patapatu heni ki he ek pare mia whanua. Pe pehe ki he ek tokon pare mia. Moena kapne di pa patapatu heni ki he whare rea tonga. Kapatu heni ki he haa whakalunga tonga. Ngai tamai me ngai whae. Ma ngahi tunga katoa pe o ko whaafakatapua i he society ai taonga. Pea whatapata pe heni ki he hako tupu e whanua. Pea tala mo ka pui ka e whatuloa tu heni ki he kere kere eke e whanua hau ko heni ko Amerika o ko whetaiaki ai ai tuk whanua mātonga. E hawik mai ka inga o kau whiawhia i he whiawhi whakakoloa ko heni. Ke tau to e whea aki i he heope i he tuk whanua mātonga mo e ne polokalama ko ia e talatala noa ki he mahu inga e taha e ngahi pouturiki e kautahani a ia ko e ako whakatamai. Koe tau taimi e hawani i Salt Lake City, Utah, o ko Ocean Miniti o toi kwata ki he hiwa i he efiafin. E ko tau kauwha tafo ki heni pe mo toketa Ulise Funaki me Brigham Young University of Hawaii me he Aloha Land. E ku tau lau ko e koloa lelei e mao e whenga maari e tokatahani ke tau kauwhataha mo ia i he whiawhiko ene. O ko tui o ko nasi o atu pe e pui pui tua o e tokatahani i he pesi ko ia Facebook ko ia e tuku whanua mātanga. Ka koe tokataha woko e ni o ko ne rotonga whakawata maku ne hoko ko e whaiako i University ko ia o Brigham Young i Hawaii. Pena ne toki kuna whoki ai tumu tumu o i whinga ako i he poto whakaata mai me he University ko ia o Hawaii i Manoa. Pako tui ko e kolole lei ke tau mao ai taimi. E tokatahani ke wahe wahe mo ke tau tolu ai kakai tonga i he whiawhini ai ne halafononga ma ngai whilau lau o ene mo o i kono o hinga ko e whinga kono ngā ki he pata whaatamai. It's an honor for us to welcome and to have Dr. Funaki with us this evening at the Tuk Whanua Mātonga broadcast, and what a blessing for us to have this individual, this father and a teacher and an educator and even a doctor with us. And Dr. Funaki, how are you and how is Hawaii?
Marau pito. Whawhawha mea katoa. Masani a Hawaii.
Oia, marapito Dr. Funaki, ko tui koe whenga maari whawhawhakeni ke tau kau whakataha heni pia mo koe. Pia ko tui o ko ikai ke sola hataha ki a koe i Hawaii. Pia behe ki e whamiri koe ia ko ke hau mea i koe whamiri toka lahi a pito i Hawaii. Pia behe ki whanua lahini i Amerikani. Ko tui koe whenga maari e koe ni ke ki tātala noa pe ki he mahu inga ko ia o e ako. Pea ko tui whoko e tahwo ki ene ngahi pouturiki ko ia ko e tukwhanua mātaunga, a ia ko e technology, ko e education, ko e government, and mo culture. I he whiawhini, we'll just focus on education. So, a ia ko e whakaukau Dr. Funaki ko e, so why is education important to you?
Malo a pito e whehui whawhawha. Malo e lau maria ho eiki. Ia si o to ofa ke kainga tonga kono katoa. He ngai turi ke whagoia mamani. Ke tau te whito pe ki ate ki mutolu pe o ku tau. Takamuri fuoloa i Murini i Hawaii ni pehe whoki Amerika lahi. Ko whiawhia whainga maria koe ni o ko mau. Ke u kau whataha pe mo koe Dr. Lautaha. ki polokalama whaofa koe ni. Ko ia o ko kore ke ula ki hufanga atu he ngai tala whakatapu ko osi hona Funaki. Ka ata ki he motu atuani ki he whaia ki lawe ki he whehui ko nā. I also want to recognize, while I am here in Hawaii as well, aloha mai kātou um, i nā ohana ali'i pela pū me nā ohana na kanimakua na kani opio a pau i nāna mai i kia polokalamu. Mahalo atu no ia o kou. Ia wau mane i ma ke ahupua o la ia vai la ia malo'o. Ma ke kula nui o Brigham Young, mahalo atu no i nā poe a pau i a kokoa mai i kia polokalamu e nāna mai. Mahalo atu no ia o e vea. Just want to recognize being here in Hawaii, the peoples here of Hawaii, my ancestors and my family. For me, Vea, the importance of education, for me, it's very much well summed up by a person, a man named Conscious Lee. He's pretty popular there on social media, but Conscious Lee has a saying, and he says, "Education is elevation." And to me, that's a great way to sum it up, is that the more we are educated, the more we gain knowledge and information, and we partake of the different opportunities to gain that knowledge, the more we're able to not only elevate ourselves intellectually, but we can elevate wisdom. Tau lava foki o te hiki hake peho tau whanua ki o lunga. He? O hange koe mai moa ako koe na i whakahoko he la ako o ngā whanua tamatu i ko tupou wha. I he ne mai moa koe na i whai nusila pe he foki mo whanua muri. O ne mau e ne mataitohi, koe ulo ki mataitohi a hatonga. Pene ngau e aki rewa e mea koe ia, ai ne ako ke tokoni ki ho tau ki whanua koe ko tonga. So that's what I believe is one of the most important reasons of why we should, why education is important. But if I may, Vea, I would also like to stress this idea that it's not necessarily education o hange pe o kufie mau ke totaha ko toa pe ke nau mau e nau bachelor, master pe ko e nau toke tā, ikai. O koe ke koe alo ako, koe i ha university, o koe ke whiunga mo toke taha ko toa pe. Everyone has their own different talents. Everyone has their own different ways of understanding their own set of skills and talents. And I think what this is, what education means as well, is not just getting a degree, but in gathering knowledge and wisdom. Yeah. Growing up in the church, right, we were always taught that the glory of God is intelligence. And that's what it is for me, is when we're able to become more intelligent, that doesn't mean you need a degree. It means to always be learning. Ke tau ngawe mau pe, o tāna tufi pe ngai ilo kehe, whekau aki pe mo mama koe ni o tau loto ngā whanongai. Ke tau inform mau pe, ke tau ilo pe koe hai ngahi mea koe ia ku hoko i mama ni, ko ako i tau dolu, ke tau ilo, mo ako ke ngai mea he kua hiri, loto ngani, ke tau teu ke kahau. So I would like to encourage people as well to think about education, not just getting a degree, but increasing knowledge and being actively looking for knowledge and wisdom. And that can be a degree, that can be going to trade school to learn to be a welder or a truck driver. That can just also simply be reading and watching the news and watching, and learning different skills on how to do things in life. And I think when we do that, we elevate ourselves and our communities. Mahalo ko ki tari maulalo aku vea. Mahalo.
Malo bido Dr. Funaki pa koe. Poti koe mea mo ne pita mau inga ko ia. Education, me tau wako, me tau. I like, what you mentioned about, the continue to learn and to
Yes.
improve yourself on whatever aspect in life, because, each and every one of us, we have a different ability, different talents, and
Oh, yeah.
to learn and to improve our knowledge and in all field of study, you know.
Yeah.
So and you on your biography, you know, like you accomplished your undergrad degree.
Mm.
I believe it was like in uh, political science,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
and then you even go further for a master's degree.
Right.
So why didn't you stop there? I mean, I mean, you know, like there's like a lot of people who are you know, when they're done with their undergrad, and okay, I'm done. I'm gonna go work now. I'm gonna go make money. I'm gonna go have a family, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But
Right.
for you, you had the desire to go even further, you know, for higher education.
Right.
So tell us why. Why didn't you stop at your
Oh, yeah.
master's degree? Why did you even go for a PhD?
Koe whehui tata koe nei ai mai hoku maari. Te ke toi ako koe hoi. E toi hoku atu pe mase. Ikai koe you're right there. That's totally true. You know, a bachelor's degree, a 4 years bachelor's degree is already a lot of work. And I think koe mea koe aku, you know, ko kei whainga takai holo pe mo tau whanau ako koe tau community tai mini. It's a lot. Doing a master's another 2 years, it's a lot. And the decision to continue on with my PhD is for two reasons. Again, the first one, like the first fit question, is for elevation, right? Education is elevation. The more we learn, the more we're able to continue on as much as we can. Neongo pe ne whaingata, AI pe honola, AI pe ngai mea lere mauai. And I understood the blessings. Ko hono mo oni. Nai lahi pe ngai tāpuaki nai nai o mai nai lingi hifo mai me lotolangi. Ko uhi ko ma pe ku PA. Ko ngai ilo, ko ngai skill, ko ngai poto i ngau e, ko ngai relationships, ko ngai connections that I made. You know, I received such blessings. E kai ke tai wha alau a pe ngai tapuaki ko ia. And so, you know, that was a part of the decision as well, is kapau te toi hoko atu, ko whakaamu pe e toi ai pe mo ngai tapuaki. And so that's why one of the reasons why if I continue on, I'm very glad and blessed to have many mentors in my life. You know, and if you don't mind, you know, I just kind of name some of them, right? People like my Kumulono, Ikua, Dr. Devita Kaili, you know, a good friend of mine, Landon Sikahema, as well as Dr. Victor Kaufusi, Dr. Ngau Ngau Savana at BYU Hawaii, and Dr. Vern Hepri. These men were all very pivotal in my life of, you know, helping me realize, you know, the more we learn, the more we gain in education and wisdom, the more opportunities open up, the more connections open up. And so that leads to my second reason was go no for be Hawaii in so la ko he fai nga no fo go ya he ni ve go mama fa ve ko la me ka to ko no fo be Hawaii ni fi ma be de fu maka apito. And unfortunately I wasn't we talked about different skills. I wasn't born with, you know, ko fu ni mapoto he alu iate pe ke langa fare pe ke ngai uhila ko tale ni ti pe nai o mai pe me tamai e wani ko atamai pe. And so I use what I got, and that's the skills that I got. You know, I can read and write well, and so that's one way that I'm making a living here in Hawaii.
Hmm.
Right? Is it's expensive to live here, and so I decided, you know, to I'll beg it to mutumu ko ui ko whainga maari ke ko e mau ko ui ko whanau mo family. So I think that's something people need to think about when they're thinking about school. Is the more education you gain, again, not just a degree, but some training skills. The more the knowledge you gain, there's a lot more opportunities. So that's what I would say. Yeah.
Yes, you know, you're right. You know, the more you climb up the ladder, there's, in the context of education, higher education, secular learning, the more doors, the more opportunities are open, for you. But you mentioned, like you have a family to care for, and not only that, but like what you said, you're in Hawaii. Hawaii is super expensive, and but you have a family. You also have uh, work. You already became a teacher at BYU Hawaii. So you have work, you have family, and I'm sure you also have some church responsibility or whatnot, and also families. So the idea here, the question here is, how did you balance? I mean, working to earn a doctorate degree or PhD is not an easy task. It's not something where you just like go into a Google or a Wikipedia or Facebook and download something and write up something. No way, Jose. You got to do a lot of readings, a lot of study, and of course, you have mentors, to help you, to guide you. But tell us. How did you balance your all these elements, in order for you to successfully accomplish your PhD?
Malo pito ve fe hu fa fo fa mo ni. I think when we ask that question, a lot of people are, malo amanaki pe o tau kainga go na mamata mai pe ta polo kala mai ai foi. There will be a set answer or the right equation. And to be honest with you, um, it was hard, and there's not really one way to do it. And I didn't, I wasn't able to balance sometimes. And I think you very well know as well, right, Dr. Lautaha, right? Those who don't know as well, Vea is also has his PhD, and he's gone through that same situation. And so you know very well, Vea, sometimes we can't get a balance. Sometimes there's going to be tough and hardships where we have to make hard decisions. Um, Doing higher education requires a lot of sacrifice. Okay nga tape iau pe he ko famore ku taimi mo paanga my mental health okay ko out to tahape. Kai toi we si ai pe hoku family hoku mari hoku whanau ko ngahi obligation mo ngai fatongia ke he siasi he foki ki he ngā we mo ngai relationship ke he koloni. Sometimes you can't find a balance. The point, I think, what you do is you just keep going and you try to find the best that you can. You mentioned it exactly, finding mentors. I did not do this by myself, not at all. If it had not been for my wonderful mentors, again, my chair, my advisor, Dr. Tengon, Dr. Kaili, especially Dr. Hafoka, you know, wonderful friends like Nakia, Naiole, my brother. Um, had it not been for these other people around to help me find a balance, it would have been even harder. And again, the most number one person, again, my wife, Sinamoni, for her support, helping me find time to study, helping me, people offering to help watch the kids, um, having to make sacrifices in different areas of our life. Maybe if I had um, having to stay up late. One of the things which again I'm sure you and many others have had to do because I have kids at home. Okay, tôi phải học homework ấy, bị gọi longo tôi phải hela tôi phải for tôi cookie. So oftentimes, I have to stay up late when it's quiet, when everyone's mohe. Cái phải bé tohi mọi lao con à. I think you do the best that you can. And the best that you can is usually accomplished with the support and help from those around you. Yeah. And that's what my hope is, that those those who wish to continue on in higher education, you gotta find that support. You have to find those people, that your family, your friends, your schoolmates, whoever, that can really be there for you and help you find that balance. Yeah. And so I wouldn't say I found a good balance, but I tried to, right? Give a little bit about myself everywhere I could. But at the end of the day, na ito'y may hoa, fay mo. So, if kahela to, so yeah, a lot of sacrifice and a lot of help from other people.
Very good. Uh, you're very unique person. I mean, in the context of your background, because on your biography, you have Tongan, and you also have Hawaiian, and you know, so Hawaiian, Tongan, and you're born and raised here in the U.S., but you also acquire, some knowledge about the Tongan culture, from your family around you. Not only that, but you serve your mission in Tonga, and I think that that's also helped you with um, your cultural, the value of your culture and your not only that, but your religious beliefs. So the idea here is how did your cultural and your religious values and beliefs help you to on your educational journey? So did you see any did it help you? I mean, or and if not, I mean, if yes, tell us, share with us, how did it help you to earn your PhD?
Yeah, sure. That's a beautiful fa pita fehu. Um, yeah, I saw my dad's side. From Matala, yeah, go tamai go Tonga, go fai go Hawaii Pino, Ilocano. My mom, my grandfather, and my great grandfather from the Ilocos Norte, the northern Philippines, and so we are from the Ilocano group. I would say, yeah, that's a little different than what a lot of our people and a lot of our people my age were taught. When our families first came to America, many families na ifenga gifatolonga e nau mefkatonga nau lefkatonga maha kana ito ai pe mo ni na nau pehe sa be ago Hawaii ni pe ko America ni o de mo futokanga fe be ki he tau mea ko ia tonga tu pe mea ko ia tonga ta pe tonga. I would argue and say that my culture was very much influential in helping me not just get my PhD, but just helping me be myself and be more comfortable in education in general. Unfortunately, I didn't grow up speaking Tongan. And I remember, and I hope my dad don't get upset, but I remember my dad telling us as kids. I said, "Why did you teach us Tongan?" He said, "Sit for what? And then I know he regretted it later, and many of our parents were like that. And I don't think we find fault with any of our parents for thinking that. For many of our parents that came from Tonga, our grandparents came from Tonga. Okay, hangin na nau fehi up and na nau fu. Again, nau toi loto pe na to ke tau unganga whakatonga. Kana nau pehe, koi whaunga le rei taha ke mau e whangamari, mau e whangamari e nau whanau, ko nau alu pehe ngai whaunga whakapapalangi. Which is okay. I understand, and so I'm not placing the blame on anybody. But I think what our new generation has come to see, and I know, again, your family, you have seen that, is that actually our culture is a big part of who we are and what helps us in our education. A part of the Tongan culture of mateaki e tauki whanua, ai loto maulalo, ai haga mamahi i mea. That's a part of who we are, and that is a part of what strengthened me going to school. Hey, I'm not doing this for me, man. Kana ia aku fili te no fo be au api te au fa nga koe. Ka koe fai pe ako koe hui koe ofa ki hok family, mo ofa ki hok fonua. And that's Tongan. That's a very Tongan culture, and so we don't realize that, right? I look to our past. I look to my ancestors, my grandparents, and the villages where we're from in Tonga, and and even to my Hawaiian side and my Filipino side. You know, I think many of our students today, our young people, and anyone in education, we don't have to si aki au pito mori aki au pito e tau nganga whakafonua, e tau lea whakafonua, e tau ngahi mea whakafonua. No, we can use that as a part of our education, as a part of who we are. And honestly, like the work that we do here at BYU Hawaii, for myself, Dr. Afoka, Dr. Kaili, Dr. Thompson, we are trying to change things a little bit, right? So that the system here, and we're allowed to do that in these systems, is to kind of change things a little bit to help with the diversity of knowledge and perspectives, right? In an educational system, you want to have different perspectives. You want to have different ways of thinking. Um, for me, one of the things that really helped doing my PhD um, was the whaikaveikola, right? O tonga. Aia koe whakaapa-apa, koe loto mamalalo, koe mamahi mea, mo tauhiwa. I had to use all four of those in my classrooms, in the research work I did, for 4 years. Those were the things that helped me to conduct my research. And so speaking Tongan, speaking Hawaiian, when we were young, we were told, and those of you who are bilingual, you understand. When you speak other languages, it turns out you have a different perspectives, right? When you speak a different language, you look at the world very differently. You're able to process things differently. And now many parents are trying to encourage their kids to learn another language. They just understand the cognitive importance, right? When you are able to speak more than one language, your brain processes differently, and it's a good thing. You're able to retain more knowledge, and so knowing these things, it turns out tagoe aunga, tagoe aunga e tau nganga whakatonga e tau ngai mea koe me kuhiri me tau whangakui. That the thing is now we just have to figure out how to use it and how to keep it with us, and so the other part of your question there, is my faith as well. Yes. Ko hono mo oni, ko toi hu atu peo ako. Toi lahe ange belo tu. Ko hu ke lava I be homework ia, he. Ko whaka hela atu e homework so, but all jokes aside, having my faith in Heavenly Father and in God and Christ, were also important. Learning to be humble, learning to endure the hardships, you know, um, but also learning that Christ Himself as well. One of was a learner. Yeah. In the scriptures, it says that the Lord increased in wisdom and knowledge as well as in stature, right? So Christ not only needed the time to grow physically, he needed the time to also grow intellectually and spiritually. It says he grew, right, in favor with God and men, and he increased in wisdom and knowledge, right? And so even even Christ needed to learn how to have good relationships with people. He needed to learn how to have a relationship with his heavenly Father, but he also had to increase his own knowledge. Na ke alu noa ia pea si sukalai si o whae ne ngau e whakawhaiwhekau ta e ai hano taimi ke ula ki ako e wholofola. Ki neo o ke asia he toi tapu mo ngai wholofola. Kau koutu I malohi nai lau wholofola e si sukalai si. Nai ula ki lau e wholofola, I lo I ngai wholofola koe o tua mo ngai lea koe palofita. I lo I pea ngong lerei pe mo ngahi a konaki ko ia me kau whai ako me kau palofita. Te toki alo whai ne ngawe. And I think that's one of the things that also helped me is that if I want to do good in my community, if I want to contribute to my community and to my family, uluaki yako pe kita pe toki alu ki tua, he? Ulua ki whakamata pe here pe toki whai pe tau. And so that's what I would say. Of how my culture and spirituality, my faith helped me with my PhD as well.
Awesome. Sorry, I forgot to. Ngalo yao que mention your Filipino.
Same. Oh, for free.
Yeah, because but I remember you mentioned something about Filipinos. So
You go
hey,
ahead.
so Tongan, Hawaiian, and Filipino.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome. So
Malo.
yeah, well, malo ai vai vai fa fo fa. Lele I ko na ke tau. Hoko ko fa lo tola ki he young generations. Even though in my personal opinion, you are considered as a young PhD, So, but anyway, so Dr. Funaki, koe hanai ha o wharei, a piece of advice ki he tau ke parents, for supporting their kids for higher education. What would you tell the parents in the community, or even perhaps like parents who are listening from Tonga? What would you tell them about the importance of higher education?
Malo apito vea. Wow, that's a wonderful question, and there's a lot you can you can break down from that question. I guess the first thing that comes to mind, um, I remember when I was younger and starting my bachelor's degree, right, and going to do my undergrad. My mom and my dad, they didn't really know what to do. Um, they didn't really know the system. They didn't know who we were supposed to talk to and whatnot. So we had to do a lot of investigating ourselves. And I think one of the things that our parents need to know is that, we want you to reach out, ask somebody for help. If you don't know what's going on with your kids' schooling, talk to the principal, talk to the teachers. When they're getting to that age to go to college, ask somebody. There's plenty of us Tongans now in the United States, here in Hawaii, Australia, New Zealand, wherever, imuripe, that have gone through the system, and if you need help, reach out. O ku time lahi be ko tau whai ko tau kakai, time ni pe ma ke toi eke pe ke toi kore pe to koni ke hai. We need to ask. If you don't know, ask and you shall receive, right? And I think that's one of the first things I would say is our parents need to reach out to those who would know. um, that's all it is. Once our people learn to navigate this system, it becomes easier, but many of us don't know. And so I'm just grateful for the people that helped out. I can remember the late uh, Kalisi Palu, Afa Palu's wife out there. Kalisi used to work at BYU Provo. The late Kalisi Palu, Afa Atepeki. She was my financial aid advisor at BYU Provo, and she was a big help to me, helping me to navigate that system. And even though she was focused more on finances, on the financial aid side, she did the best she could to, oh, go talk to this office, go talk to that office. No, Ulise, you need to be talking about, and so people like that. If we have our people helping each other out in the school system, I think that'll be a big deal as well, right? Another thing I can think of is definitely that. I know for a lot of our families, it's difficult to get involved into our kids' schooling. He kono mooni o si mo ua pe ngai mātua he ngāwe. O ka ke nau whālawa pe ke aru ki he ngahi hange ko ngai parent-teacher conference, pe ke no si o ki he homework a goi ai whānau, pe taimi lahi pe o ke nau whetu taki pe mo whai ako goi whānau. O ku mahi no pe ki a teo ngai uhinga hange ko lau ane nai ko mo ua he ngāwe ko. Maybe there's a language barrier, and that's fine. But I think if we try to do a little more and be more involved in our kids' education, To be honest, at least for what I've seen for myself in Tonga. Kung ay mato kay Tonga, I found out like education is a huge thing in Tonga. Like I remember when I was in Vava'u working and um when there was time to do the ang ay CV goya CV Hu High School, right? CV Hu Korisi. Those were big deals, man, for these families. Like they would, I remember in Vava'o and in Hapai, right? They would like put on a big breakfast. Alo kume vala for OFA now. I been now, in a kai pong pong mo toenga ko kau CV. Pero now tari ka to. Os pegoya break. Fai pegi koi hota. They would celebrate the CV Hu Korisi. They would celebrate when your students, do good on their tests, and education was seen as such an important thing. Hangay ko lawan ni naif ikaw akipem mo tamatui. We made songs about education. Takoy sola, kiselu sarema, right? We looked at education as this great equalizer. And so I think our that a part of our culture we should bring back here to Moody. When be involved. Oh, good time CV. And the parents, they know everything that's going. Polokalama ko to pe fai pe ilia hona pe ko atere pe toloa. O ku nima mo vai ki ai matua. Ko tau ha pe ki Moody ni hange ko ke fu fe. O ku lahi hange pe tau tokanga ke nawalu akapulu mo football. Which is good. That whatever, if that's what you want to focus on. But I think if we brought that back here with what brought it back from Tonga, and emphasize being more involved in our kids' education and getting to know their teachers. What's your homework? How's school going? What are you learning today? Kafai have CV o kusi tokanga ipefa hematua. When's your test coming? Oh, you can do it. Be encouraging. Um, I would say that's what I would like to see more of our Tongan community here. Um, Another one, and I know I'm sorry, mahalo tau may overtime pe there, but koe taha e ni e tau whai ka vei kola koe loto mau lalo, loto whakatoki lalo. But sometimes we can take that too far. And when, I remember as a kid, and my cousins or somebody would play football, and my dad would congratulate another father and say, "Oh, saya pito tika pe aka ai va inga ho foha pe pe mai de vai motu eta kai sai pe malo pe ne vai mo ha." I get it, I understand. Mahido pe ki au uhinga o kufenga pe ke o ana ngari santungu pe ku ngari pore loto hikisia. But I think we need to be more encouraging of our kids here in Murini. You know, Speak more positive and encouraging words to them. Oh, to we peko stupid, peko vare, peko ha, hoko peke fai, peko family ho tamai o vare, koko ke ha ho family ho tamai ha pe me vao, right? Those things after a long time, when you do that all the time, and that has been proven scientifically, through psychology, and that those little things, those little comments, negative comments, after a long time, they hurt, and you start to believe it. That te tui pe kita giai. O pehe o mo ni pe o ko vare. Kwa ke o lava o whai ha, my mom told me, or my dad told me. I think we need to look at being more positive for our kids when they're doing whatever they're trying to do, and be encouraging. Whakalotolahi pe tau whanau. Ngea pe koe ha, whai ngā ngāwe koe mo nau. Si poti pe koe ako, pou pe sete au ki ai. Hange koe tau pou ki ngai si poti koe au whaitonga, he koe. Nima mo vae pe mātua ke nau alo whakakai kai mo ha fua. Imagine, just imagine if we took the same amount of energy mo tau iwi koe mo tau fu loto lahi i he tau poupou i he tau whanau akapulu mo whanau sipoti. O transfer o mai mea ko ia ki he ako. Da man. Imagine what would happen with these kids if we encouraged them and celebrated not only athletic achievement, but intellectual achievement as well. beauty. Yeah. Oh yeah, babe.
Maria bito whadala noa.
Malo.
O ku mahu inga foki eh, Dr. Funaki ko ne ngā foki ko BYU foki o ku o iai foki students from almost all over the world. Very diversified pito different ethnicities, my background, Brigham Young University of Hawaii. So ka koe whakaukau te koe ki he, and I'm not saying this, that we are representing BYU or something like that. No, no way. I'm just, uh, what about our students from Tonga? Um, how can we promote uh, higher education? I mean, I know, the idea is to come to BYU Hawaii, graduate, and then go back, return to your own country and to serve, and then you do whatever you want. But either you stay here or go back to Tonga. But I mean, is it something that we can promote while they're working on their undergrad? Higher education, come back and do your master's and come back and do your PhD. So, what would you say about that?
Oh, that's a great question because that's so funny because we were just talking about that. Myself and one of our the department chair, the chair of the Pacific Island Studies major department here at BYU Hawaii is Dr. Inoke Hafoka, who is from Glendale, Utah, and he's married to his wonderful wife Tari Alisa, who's from Laie, and he and I and another one of the professors, Rebecca Matsangi Walker, we were just talking about the exact same thing. How do we get these Tongan students to not only want to just do their undergrad? Sure, that's great, that's awesome. You can go back home or you can stay here, whatever, But how do we encourage them to want have that desire, not just to go alumni iape ka ke na loto le reipe o whakaam ke na toi hoko atu he ako. One of the things that we discussed was providing opportunities for them to see what it's like, right? A lot of times, a lot of our students here from Tonga, and again, I'm just speaking from my own experience. Maybe it's not for every student, but the students that I've talked to, a lot of times they really don't believe they can. Um, and there's a lot of reasons for that. We don't have to get too deep into all of that conversation, but one of that includes, some of the immigration stuff. It's how do they, that's very okfu. It's very complicated. It's a scary thing to do to try to figure out a new visa. I think we definitely need help with that. We need some more support here at BYU, at University of Utah, BYU, Provo, other universities, right, to help our Tongan students and any real student immigrant, right, on how to navigate the immigration process for visas. It is, I was born and raised here in Hawaii, and even I get confused and trying to look at the immigration papers, in form this, form that, avekihes, tapahe mahafu. And so I think we need a little bit more support in that. Um, but the main one is that I think that students don't feel that they can. They don't feel that they're able to. They're not good enough. They're not smart enough. Um, and again, that goes back to being more positive and encouraging. And one of the things that we also think it's putting them in those circumstances and putting them in opportunities to see what higher education looks like. And so one of the things that we're doing here at BYU, what we're going to try to implement more is taking our students with us to conferences, having them be more involved in the classroom, in our department, right, and having them make not just clubs but academic clubs and assisting teachers, professors in this type of work. One of the things we're also trying to do in our department is make a oh, sorry, I forgot what it's called, but an applied Pacific Island Studies class or an applied class where you can see what you're going to do with this major. A lot of times our students from Tonga, they often see that, oh, if I do this major, that's what I have to do for the rest of my life. That's the only kind of job I can get. Rather than seeing their bachelor's degree as just a time to work on your skills. That's what I had learned. And shout out to again some of my other teachers. One of my teachers that taught me that was Shona Tavake. Mahalo ke mahe ni koe mo Shona Tavake there out in Draper. Was he had taught me that your bachelor's degree is not really a time for you to become an expert in anything. It's a time to learn skills, how to work in a schedule, how to prioritize work, how to turn in things on time, how to communicate, how to do a presentation, how to network, all these interpersonal and professional skills. If our students can learn that, they will see that, hey, just because you did this doesn't mean you can't do other things. You just got to take those skills and transfer it over. As you mentioned earlier, I originally studied political science. Hena AI hataimi na aku whakaamu ke hoko koe fu lawyer pe koe fu tamanga e pure anga he o whenga i pe ke u minister ha. Eh? Na AI had no time. But I gave that dream up and I changed. I became an anthropologist, and a professor. But those same skills that I learned in political science, oku applicable pe ia oku lava ngawe aki I hatoi whainga feitu eta, I hatoi whainga field eta. Eh? And so that's something I think we need to do in encouraging our students is give them an opportunity to learn that how those skills are applicable anywhere. Also put them in situations, show them. Sometimes you got to hold them by the hand. Take them to the university, take them to a conference, involve them in some of these school higher education activities. A lot of it is conferences, right? So they can see the type of work that we do. It doesn't just mean haupeke kalasi o fayako laukonga goiape. Ikai, koe ngawe koe hange ko koe. O kai ke ko neonga be ma ho PhD o kai ke no fo kalasi ata pe. You have other work that you do outside. And so I would encourage students and teachers and community members that we need to give our students more opportunity, especially the ones like you said from Tonga. We have to have them experience outside and look, this is what you can do when you take these skills. You can do this type of work in the community, at the school, in your family. You can do it back home in Tonga. My last thing I wanna touch on real quick there. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I want our students from Tonga to realize one of the things that always breaks my heart. Ko na mavahe be mei tonga ko mavahe osi pe. Kai te nau toi whia whoki nau tolki tonga o ku kowe a tonga o kake hawhainga maarie o ku maulalo o masiva a tonga mai ha. And that breaks my heart. That really breaks my heart. My family, my dad's, I remember him always teaching us when we were little. Nagage mau mai begi hedi ki Hawaii ini ko na mau masiva i tonga. Halata. Na isanga be mau novo i tonga. Oku mau be fufari, mau be mo kere kere mo be kai ikai. Ko o mai ki he ni ko different ko whanga mari e kehe. Kai toi foki ki tonga o langa hake fonua. Alu mau mawahe be mei tonga ko uke mau whanga mari e kehe. Ke toi lava o toi tokoni ki he fonua. O hange pe ko tau kau whai ako I loa ko ia I tonga hange ko futa helo mo kau me otu ko ia he. Nege ke na walo ako ko ui ke na mawahe osi mei tonga. Oli aki a tonga. Ikai. Ko he hau pe ni o ako. I hope our students can realize that they have such potential to bring our country up and to raise the bar for everything in our country. Oku sai pe a tonga. Oku wha fofa. Oku fia maria pe a tonga. And I don't like when people say ko whanua masiva. Ikai. Ko kai lere mau pe mau al ki tonga. O kai kia homeless. O kai kia hatai kai. Ikai. O sai au pita tonga. but there are some things that we have to fix, and you and I both know that. We all know that, and I love, and all of my ofa pe ki he whare area mo ka ngai pure anga, whakapaapa mo ofa pe ki he whare o tupou. But we know that there are some things in Tonga we need to fix, like His Majesty had mentioned at the opening of Parliament. We need to really fix our education system. We need to especially our healthcare system, our hospital. Kapau te tau mawahe katoa me tonga, he? O ako o alu osipe. Ko hai e tau whoki o toko ni ke whare mahaki, mo toko ni ke businessi, mo i ako. You can't do it, the Tonga National University, the teachers and professors and the leaders of Tonga National University are all people that studied outside of Tonga. Our paremia, our kau minista, they all went and they came home, right? And so I don't live in Tonga now, but my family and I, we try to go maufe aluaki maupe, tokoni pe ki he whamiri mo kolo. And I hope that our Tongan students here come to realize that opportunity is everywhere. It's just the skills and knowledge you gain to create more of those opportunities, right? And so that's what I would say. If our students want to contribute to the community and to our country, go get higher education, and don't be afraid to do so. Come and talk to us. We'll help you get there, right? So, sorry, kadang fu lo lo au bito vo itari ko.
Ka o ku whawhofa o pito. Pea mahino foki pe o ki ai foki whanau ako mei tonga mei siapani mei ngai whanua ke. Pea ku iai fo pena ngai pro kalamba foka nau tolu ko no promote education ge nau students a nau tolu mo ngai whakaukau ko ia ko whawhofa pito e ngai whakaukau ko e nau ke o mai mau inga ke tau higher education ka tau mau inga ke tau give back back to our country of origin I ever go that is like that's the whole meaning of tuk fonua matonga is myself and two other friends of mine we had the same opportunity to came to Hawaii and then one went back to Tonga and myself and other friend didn't get the chance to go back because we ended up find our other half here in the U.S.
Are.
And so now we are doing this. The Tukfonua Matonga is a way of honor our our whatever the contract and agreement with the church and to give back to Tonga. So malobido Dr. Funaki o mai whakakau whakaofa go yeah. And we are hoping and we are praying that our students from Tonga will continue to have the desire to go to get their masters and go get a PhD. I know there, like this is like also for our students from Tonga. Even myself, like, before we came to the US, we didn't even understand the difference between undergraduate, master's, and PhD. So it's something that we had to learn here in the US, how you climb up the ladder. But if you were to go to elementary school or you go back to a remote island in Tonga and talk to those little kids about the differences between undergrad, master's, and PhD, by way of like inspiring them and promoting higher education, what would you tell them?
Wow, yeah. I think what I would do is first of all be honest as that it's not an easy thing, right? Okay, ko hame ai ni age Pehe o deugi ai no ia ve ika go mea vai ngata. But as we talked about earlier, it's so worth it. The opportunities that I have been blessed with because of my education, because of going to school, o kutai whaalaua pe ai ngai tāpuaki. Um, and that's not even including like money. I'm not even talking about money, paycheck. No, hell, go get massive. Wow, but it does even that the financial side, my social relationships, my work opportunities. Because of my education and going to school, I have traveled more. In fact, right? I recently returned from New York City. I was there for a week, presenting on my research and the importance of Kavas practices. And that's New York City. I got to go there for the work I do. I've gone to Oklahoma City. Same thing. All of these opportunities. I've got to go to New Hampshire and Connecticut to Yale University last year. All of that, the education was able to provide that for me. And so that's what I would say first to anyone is, encouraging them to get into higher education is look at the opportunities that you will gain. Okay. I think you wanted me to explain again the difference. I undergrad and yeah. Um, for me, like I said, what I learned later on in life, your bachelor's degree, we're not trying to ask you to be an expert in anything. Your bachelor's degree is where you learn to work, where you learn those skills, like I said, how to write a paper, how to give a presentation, how to be on time, right? How to email, how to talk to people, how to prioritize your work. There's so many little skills that when you add them up, right, that it teaches you how to work in a professional world. And so that's what I would say the 4 years for your undergrad is about. It's about learning how to heck mo ni, not everything going again it's a long time ago and a lot of work. But the skills I gained, right? How to format my papers, how to do a PowerPoint presentation. And I'm sure it's the same with you there, right? How I connect and network with people, how to speak to somebody, your professors, your classmates, your colleagues. Those are the skills that you learn during your undergrad. When you're moving from your undergrad to your master's degree, what that is you're definitely starting to now become an expert in a specific field. You've got all the skills from your bachelor's, and now it's it's focusing now on something, on one thing or one field, right? And for me, it was anthropology. For other people, it can be whatever else you want. But now you don't have to worry about during your bachelor's. You kind of take all kind of you got to take your math, you got to take some science, your majors, your minors. Whereas in your master's degree, now we're just going to focus on one specific thing. We don't have to do math. You don't got to do science or anything else that you don't want. You just do your requirements for that core knowledge, right? And that can be anything, IT, like yourself, right? It can be IT, it can be computer science. And you're just going to be now becoming an expert and familiar with that field. You're going to learn everything you can about that one subject. And that's your master's degree. And that's 2 years usually, right? That's how I would explain a master's. It's now we're focusing on one subject. That's it. The PhD, that is hangego yakongawe. Now you're going to take those 6 years of skills and knowledge. Now you're going to actually do it. You're going to do some sort of research that you believe will contribute to, general knowledge, to the community in some way, and you're going to put it to work. Whatever, how does this work? How does that work? Now you got to go show it. And for 4 years, 6 years, whatever, that's what a PhD is now you're going to take all those skills and you're going to show people now that you are the expert in that's what you do. And that's what it was, writing a very long paper like you did with your dissertation, right? What we both did, right? and uh, um, and now you're going to go out in the field and do research. You're going to do, not only read books, but you're going to test hypotheses. You're going to do experiments. You're going to, you're going to now compile it all into a big paper, and you're going to show people, this is what I can do, this is what I know, and here's the evidence, right? So that's what I would say is how I would explain the difference in the levels of education. And I would like to, just point out, right? The last I checked, right, anybody who's able to do a PhD, you have to realize that you are one of only 2% of people in the entire world that has that, a PhD or a doctorate. 2%. You are special. That is something awesome. That is a lot of work. And it's not something everybody gets. And I'm not trying to show off. Now you're going to show what it is you know from all these years of working. Here is my presentation. This is my thesis or my dissertation. This is what I know. This is what I believe is important that other people know about. Go ahead, right? And it's something that not too much of our people, not too much of any people really get to do. And so it's very special. It's a lot of work, but it's very special. So, oh yeah.
Malapit Dr. Funaki, mau inga foki inga foki ko manatu ibe, like when I first, came from the US here, and even like, back in Tonga, uh, we didn't hear the word undergraduate, but we hear the word bachelor's degree. So, but, here in America, we learn about this and that, and thank you for giving us that um, definition, explanation about the differences between undergraduate, master's, and PhD. Imagine like, little kids from remote islands in Tonga, if we can go and talk to them and inspire them, to come to the US and to seek for higher education. Okay, so I think you have mentioned about a word, very important word, dissertation. So that's a that's a very big word for some, for some people. So tell us, what is the definition of the word? What is dissertation? And then maybe from there, tell us about your dissertation.
Mm. Malo bito. So, um, yeah, for those who do a PhD or a doctoral program, the final, like not really a test, but the final thing that you do to show all of your work, your research, your knowledge, your expertise is to usually to do a thesis or a dissertation, and then that's usually a really big paper, a very big paper. Pretty much, it's a book. It is a book, right? Because most dissertations they become a book later. What it is a dissertation is bringing together new knowledge and creating a paper now you have an organized paper, an organized set of knowledge of things people didn't really know about before, and you're putting it together to show people, hey, this is the new knowledge I'm creating, new knowledge about something that people didn't know about before. A thesis is more of taking knowledge that people knew about already, right? And now bringing all those different ideas together to make an argument about something, to show the connection, or to show, oh, this is what's going on with all this knowledge happening. And so for me, my dissertation was koe tamu agoe ku dissertation ai o ku whaau i hele whatong koe fisisi. Kau ku ki i hele whapara o ki kehe pe a thesis mo dissertation, kau ku me tatau pe. Ka koe tau mua koe ku fisisi a ku pepa toke tā, koe hae ngau, koe hae aonga, koe hae mahu inga koe ia ai kawa, ki he kakai tonga, mo kakai Hawaii i ko o lauloa ni, ai a ko North Shore. I wanted to know what is the purpose and why is kawa? What is going on? Ko hae mea koe whai he kautonga ma kau Hawaii ma kawa. You know, what's the point of it? What are they, why, you know, because ko au neo tupu hake au inu kawa. Kau to hiki mai ki nofa pe I sore iki o inu kawa I pe ai mo kakai ke ngai kalap ke. Ko to hiki mai ki heni la ieni. O kunau ke inu kawa pe mo kautonga koe heni. To inu kawa pe mo kau Hawaii, mo kau Haamoa, kau Fiji. Pau pe hea ui man. So what, you know, so that was kind of my main question. Koi tau mua, koi whehui koi pepa. We came from Tonga, and we still doing this kava thing. Why? Koi ha. And now I also notice oktoinu kava lahi pe mo kau Hawaii. Koi ha na mea vai. And so that's what I was looking for in my dissertation, is investigating why the Tongan and the Hawaiian people in Ko'olauloa in the North Shore, why do they drink kava? Yeah. And we know about our cultural heritage and why kava is so important to Tongans. Um, but for what I found here in Ko'olauloa is, you know, is so different and unique. There's a lot of uhinga tatau, hange ko kalap mos kola, kalap halatolu, mataki ewa mo fega kirimaa he. You know, ko nau winu kava ko nau tonga, ko nau alu be ke kalapu ke connect pe mo kakaitonga ke nau lea whakatonga. Mahino be, many of the Tongans, especially in the kalapu, they drink kava to rest and to relax, you know. Koe langa pe sino me ngau iate, langa fare, uil mo hafua. Mahino. That's very much a reason. But there are so many other reasons as well, you know, that goes beyond just to relax. Ke na wongo isfiamari ma. No. One of the biggest things that I found was the three things that I found. The first one is it's a way to continue to connect to Tonga. It's a way to continue to connect to Hawaii. For Hawaiians, it's one, you know, as because of our history of, you know, as an occupied nation right now, um, after the overthrow of the Hawaiian kingdom, you know, Hawaiian people had a very rough time trying to hold on to culture and to language. And one of the things that many Hawaiians here do when they drink kava is that's a part of them trying to bring back their culture and reconnect mo Hawaii, mo fonua. Tatau be mo kautonga. Koe toko lahi pe hene o nau inu kava koe uhi koe nau connection ke pe ki tonga, ke fonua. He koe fonua ia, he? Koe nau inu kava he koe fonua ia. The second reason, one of the bigger reasons, koe uhi koe ngai relationships. The relationships that are created in these kava circles move beyond. O kai ngata pe I he siakare koe ai whai anga inu kawa. O kutoi hoko atu pe I tua. Ke ilo I pe koe vea. Koe kakai inu kawa, koe kau kalapu, koe kau kawatonga. O ka whai ha mari, pe ko ha putu, pe ko ha papi, pe koe whai ngā apisia, pe koe ngai mea koe kolo mo whanua. Koe kakai uruaki tau atu ai koe kau kawatonga. Koe paanga koe o ku lukuluku mai me he ngai whai anga inu kawa, hange koe ngai kalapu kawatonga. Koe paanga lau miliona. O ku tānaki mai koe uhi koe mari e foha e motu a koe. Hiki pe ai whamiri koe nau hiki ki whe. Ave pe nau ki senit. Ri paanga mai koe si putu koe ia ai kau mea koe. We drink kava as another way to connect to each other. The purpose of drinking kava for many of these people in this community is the social spatial relationships. We drink kava because you're my friend, you're my brother, you're my cousin, and this is where we hang out. This is where we bond. This is where we sing, where we laugh, we whakamatariri. This is where we tangi. He? Pea I kai ngata pe I he siakare. O ka whai ha mea he whanua. Ura ki a watu pe e kau inu kawa mo e nau holo, mo e nau ha. Ke Funaki ke whamiri. Koe ki mea sisi ko ki tokoni pe. Pe ko hai o ku whamui mui taha pe he green apu mo e u mea ko ia koe kau kawato ngā pe. And so that's the second I'm finding in my research is that many of these people, this is the way in which they connect to each other. This is how they help with their mental health. There were many of the men that I talked to who koe nau inu kawa, nai toko ni peke, nau mawahe men o te nau to inu alkoholo, kawa mālohe. Koe nau inu kawa, koe toko ni peke, nau foki ki he lotu. Um, and again, this is a place, many of our men here, but also our women. In this community, I got to talk to some women at their, and now, hange koe nau kalapu kakai fefine. Many of these women just want to come and relax and talk with other women about their problems. Hey, now, and now ngai va mo na mari mo kakai mo hafua. O pepe mo kau kalapu. O now ha o vete be now ngai palopare ma mo now ngai me koko. Tangi awe ai motu akoe mo. It's the same. And so many of the women here use the kava too. Um, Not only to relax, not only to create a relationship, but also to push back a little bit. He koe tau ilo ipe, koe yanga koe tau sio, tai mino tau mea whakatonga, pehe foki koe kakai whino kake nau inu kawa. But in reality, for many of these women, they challenge that and they believe that they have a right to drink kava too and to relax and to connect with each other and to connect to their culture as well. So you had a lot of that too, right? And it was beautiful to talk to these women who they do the same thing as the men. They work hard, they take care of the children, they go to school, and they deal with the same problems that their husbands or their brothers or their fathers deal with. And for many of them, they're proud to be Tongan. And so they want to partake in a Tongan cultural practice as well, and so that was very, very, very cool to see as well. The third thing that I found in my research was that um, kava was used, especially in this community and in Hawaii, to bring together Hawaiians and Tongans, right? At the protests on Mauna Kea in 2019, the protests at Kahuku, the same things. Many of us who are Tongan, many of us who are Hawaiian, that was one of the things that we did together. Koe tau toki whetala noa aki, whemahino aki, whekau aki mangai mea ke he whanua. It was an opportunity for what we call trans-indigenous solidarity. Aia koe whepaupau aki, ai ongo matakari, na e whai I he whai angai nukawa. Especially at Mauna Kea, at Kahuku, and in many of these community whaikawa and mixes you have here. This is a place where different ethnic groups, like you talked about, Vea here at BYU, in the community, you have Tongans mixing and drinking kava with Hawaiians, with Samoans, with Kiribati people now, they drink kava, right? And so it's a place where we can come together as different people and use our Pacific, our Moanan, Oceanian cultural practice of kava to bring our peoples together. Ukai ko uhi ke tau hau whatau ke mo tau whelau aki ikai ke tau nofo pehe merino inu kava fe po lav, fe po talanoa, fe talanoa aki, fe po aki. And one of the important things is we can learn about each other. Ihe inu kava, right? Whaikawa e kau Hamoa, mo e kau Tonga, mo e kau Kiripati, mo e kau Fisi, mo e kau Palangi. I drink kava here before with some Korean guys, right? Now, fie ilo, and they wanna connect. And kava is a great place for people to come together to connect. So yeah, that was what I wrote about in my dissertation and what is going on here with the kava. Ihe fonua goini, feitu goini. Malo.
Malapito Funaki no mai ai konga ko ia o
Oh,
dissertation ke lava ke tau wako ki ai mo mahu inga ko ia tau koloa tupu a ko ia ko
go
kava.
go ahead.
Kau ku o ku ia fuke ai e ngahi whaka ao ngai kava fo he kainimi hange ta fasho hifo. Uh, I mean, like the non-Tongan friends, who
Yeah.
perceive kava as because now we see kava is being canned, like like beer, and not only that, but the setting of where we go for cover is like a bar, like a nightclub or something. What was that part of the things that you research on, or is it like a completely different
Mm.
area for you to do more research later on?
Yeah. It wasn't the tamua ko or the main research of my paper. I do mention it, um, but it is something that I'm researching now and that I'm actually involved in now with some of my other colleagues from New Zealand, such as Dr. Aporosa, Dr. Shonevaka. That's the work that we're doing now, and shout out especially to the great work being done by Feilo Akitao Kaho, Devi, and the work that he's doing. You're right. You're right, Via. There's a lot of issues with that. Having these kava bars, you have the kava pills, funky foot yakao. You have these funky inu oktoi mix be oktoi tui fio be kava mo alcohol o koe mea tau ku mix mo la yakao wi ko kratom. He ai aku te lava po te maunima. You're addicted, and they mix it with kava. You have other things of mixing kava with sugary drinks, o fangi me suka. O si suka pe tau kakai ko to mix be mo sota mo. He to ko ya. And you're right. So that's a big issue right now within the not only the Tongan community but in the kava community of what does it mean? What does kava look like? What should it look like? What is the harm of these pills, of these little kava drinks, of the kava bars. And so that's definitely something I'm looking into.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Funaki, for sharing with us your dissertation, your findings, and I'm sure you'll continue to do a lot of work, continue to do a lot of research
Yes.
for the use of cover and
Yeah.
how to preserve our our culture,
Go yeah.
Tongan culture.
Go yeah.
Wade whamalo heni kona o ngā koe. Ko whamari o ke o ke kau mai he prokarama koe e tuku whanua mātonga.
Go yeah.
Again, congratulations on your earning your PhD, and we hope that our students from Tonga will follow the same pathway to get to the top, at the very top. And I know there's quite a few students from Tonga who are already accepted to uh, that program, the PhD program, and we're so proud of that. So, is there anything else that you wanna share with us before we end our live?
Malo pito ve ma ufinga marie ke kau ngā kau whatape mo kohe polokalama wha pito. Fia mo ni kia te au ke vahe whekau aki pe mo e mahuino koe ako. O ku honga moni kia te au. Ho ofa mo pou mai kia te au whamalola hat ka koe vea be ko. I would like to also, just praise you as well, Vea. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for malo hota ulwafi, right? For setting the standard and the bar. You as well, Dr. Lautaha, for setting that and an example for many of us in the new generation. E tau tangata fo already a kakaitonga, and just thank you for this opportunity. I'm very blessed to get to know you as well throughout these few years, and to sit down finally and chat and to get our guitaranoa. Um, I guess the only other thing I'd like to just mention about that work is I think that's something please, I won't be too long. Vea. Just a quick thing, I would like to encourage our people, our students, our people in general to oa na ngalo pe feitu, o na ngalo e tupuanga. O na si aki mori aki o si pe e tau tu whakaholo whakatonga. These traditions, these cultures, our practices, koe tau ilo whakatonga, our traditional tongue and knowledge, koe tau ilo tu ufonua, o ku mahu inga mo aunga. Mana tui koe tau kakai, koe tau whangakui taimi koe nai. Whaapehe foki he ngahi whatotolo kau pālangi, whatotolo pālangi koe, the Tongans and the Pacific people, they're warriors, and, they fight and they war with each other. But our people were also very knowledgeable, and to me, they were educated. Our people, especially our Tongan people, were the masters of the sea. Na tau folau me tonga alu pe au ki Tahiti mo whekoa mo uvea mo, we went to everywhere. We were not afraid, and we were so smart. Our ancestors were intelligent. They were, to me, the PhD. They built the great grand Kalia, the Kalia boats, and they built the Langis and the Hamonga. They built all these kolotao all over the Pacific. And you can't do that if you have no knowledge. So I would like to encourage our people. O na tau siolalo ki he tau whangakui. Whapehe whoke kakai koe ki mua koe hake lotu pehe koe ka kuonga whakapouri. Ikai! Nai mama pe a whanua kotonga. Na iloa pe tau kakai. Koe whanua hau i Pasifiki. Nei keke pehe ka pau na tau whapouri. Koe na tau mama pe. Koe mea pe nai toi ke o mai pe lotu. Koe ia pe. He? And so I just would like to encourage our people. Don't look down on our culture. Don't look down on our history and our ancestors. Let's be like them. Tau hangeko nau tolu. O poto, o ako. Viri ki mua, he, ngawe lahi, ngawe malohi. Fetokoni aki mo fepoupou aki. That's related to the work that I'm doing with kava. I think kava is a beautiful thing, a part of our culture, and if we start to dilute it and to change it into a way that is no longer whataumua ia ka tautolu ki he whanua. Ka pau tau inu kava mo mao e kava pe mo ngahi tu whakaholo ke he tau whanua. Ka pau kai ke whataumua ia ki he whanua. Ka pau te tau to'o e whanua me he kava, me he mea koe a whahu, me he whai kawe i koula. Ka pau kai ke toi koneki e tau tu whakaholo mo e tau unganga whakawhanua, mo i whanua, o kutai aunga. Just like the kava practices, a lot of what you talked about there before of doing it in a bar and mixing it. And if we take out the fonua from puke puke fonua, if we take out the fonua from kava, okutai aunga, it's nothing. It's just nothing. The koi taumua, koi uho, oi kava. Hange koi tau ngai tu whakaholo ke ko tau tolu is each other. Is the land, the people, the culture. Koi fonua ia. If we take those things out, hange koe toi hingoa koe kulupu koe ni tuk whanua matonga. Ka pau e to'o e whanua. Aia koe kere, koe tahi, koe kakai, koe unganga whaka whanua. If we remove those things from the culture, then the culture, it's going to be harmful to us. Ta tau mo kawa. Ka pau te tau toi mio o toi wei. O to'o e whanua me he kawa. E hoko rewa koe makatū kia anga. Koe mea e tō ai tau tolu. Koe mea kum aunga e kawa kia tau tolu. Koe uhi koe tau mua ia ki whakamålohia e tau wā. Whakamålohia e whanua a tau tolu. Ai hou eiki pe moe tui, pe moe otua. Again, let's not look down on our culture. Let's use it. All of those parts of our culture. Malo pito vea e whangamārie o whalai atu.
Malo pito Dr. Funaki. And again, I mean, I hope this is not the last time
Yes.
for you to come back, because I know that there are more aspect that we need to talk about. As far as like education says, like the use of technology, especially with AI, with the artificial intelligence. I remember, the president of BYU Hawaii, I think he gave one of devotional talks, and he mentioned about well, students to be careful about the use of AI when they write their papers and things like that. But I think because of our time tonight, I wish to have you, come back and unless if you want to talk a little bit about it now. But because AI, that's innovation, and that is one of a very powerful tool nowadays. Students now can just go to Google and insert like a word or something, and then Google will spit out like definitions and explanation and so many things. And even when we write our papers on Word, on Microsoft Word, Grammarly and all those softwares, they help us to but I don't know how is it like aligned with the curriculum of the school. And but again, I know it's a huge a topic to address, but I hope you can come back later on and then we can talk about it. But again, thank you so much for accepting the invitation to appear on our talk story at the Tupfunua Matonga. Well, we wish you luck and we send our love to all the Tongan students out there in Hawaii, especially at BYU. And thank you for what you do. And malo au pito he mea kotoa, hono tauhi mai e whanua me i Hawaii. Pea be he foki ki he whanau tonga goina o ku i he api ako. A ko tui o ko fia fia e mātua me i tonga kona uhinga o ku iai bea e kakaitonga i he api ako ke tokoni ki a nao tolu ki he whanau goi a ku hau me i tonga. Pa o tui ko e tainimi ko kamata ke lahi e kau whaia ko tonga i BYU Hawaii. Pa ko tui ko e tāpua ki monia ki he tau whanau o ku hau me i a tau whanua tupanga me i tonga. Kei ke hauik mo e kāinga, ko e ngata anga e ki Pōtalanoa pia mo Dr. Ulise Funaki e whiawhi whakoroa koe ni. Pia ofa ke mau mao ha e whiawhi lele mo ngai whamiri. Pia tau whaambe to e whoki mai a Dr. Funaki he kaha u ke hoko atu e Tātalanoa ko ia ki he mahu inga ko ia o ia ko ka e tau te whito ki he ākenga fo o ai hake mai ko ia ai technology mai ngahi whakaonga i ke he ko ia technology i he mala i ko ia o ia ko. Kei ke, ko i ngata anga ia tau polokalama ki he whiawhini ka mo me aga tau toki wakai i he polokalama ako. Pea ko au vemon lauka ma tuk whanau mātonga malo bitu.
No.